Today we are going to be writing our introduction and our body paragraphs for our DARE essay. So your introduction is made up of three main components: your hook, the thing that grabs your audience attention; two, a brief explanation of your topic, so not a ton of detail, just here's what I'm talking about, here's what I will go into more detail about in my body paragraphs; and three, your thesis statement, which is one sentence that sums up exactly what you're writing about. It contains your claims, your reasons. So in mine, for our DARE essay instructions, you had your three questions here that you answered. What is the shocking and important statistic that you learn about drugs, alcohol, and people making bad choices? Why is it important to learn about DARE? How to say no and making good choices? And then what advice would you give to younger students? So if we come here, 90% of Americans with a substance abuse problem started smoking, drinking, or using drugs before the age of 18. If these people had DARE or were educated on the dangers of drugs and alcohol, hopefully they could have avoided making these choices as adults. Throughout 5 days with 10 lessons, I learned way more than I would have discovered without DARE. I now know I can and will make good choices and encourage my friends to do the same. I learned not to use or take drugs and tobacco, who to ask for help, and how to say no. So when we're looking, do I have a hook? Do I have a statistic, or do I have a fact that grabs readers' attention to make them keep reading? I do. And it's this quote right here from Above the Influence, and I'm going to highlight that in red. This quote is saying that the majority, 90% of Americans who have some sort of substance abuse problem started smoking, drinking, or using other drugs before 18. So that's high school and that's middle school age. That's an extremely high number. So that tells me that if you start using drugs before the age, no one should start using drugs, but if you're especially exposed to them before the age of 18, you are more likely to have a problem later on in life. Now I go on to explain why I'm writing my essay. Throughout 5 days with 10 lessons, I learned way more than I would have discovered without DARE. I now know I can and will make good choices. So because of DARE, I learned how to make good choices and how to encourage my friends to do the same. So I'm going to kind of leave that blank in this right here. If those people had DARE, were educated, they could have avoided making those choices as adults. Shows the purpose of my essay. Shows that DARE is important because 90% of Americans needed some sort of more education. Finally, I come down here. My thesis, as we talked about in class, is always the last sentence of the introduction paragraph. Other teachers might tell you differently, but for me, it's the last sentence. I learned not to take drugs and tobacco, who to ask for help, and how to say no. So I'm going to make this blue because this tells you exactly what my essay will be about. We could even break it down. How to 1, I learned not to use or take drugs or tobacco. That's what paragraph 1 will be about. Who to ask for help. That was what paragraph 2 will be about. And how to say no. And that's what paragraph 3 will be about. So each of those is my reasons or my claims. So now I have my introduction. Come to your body paragraph. And this is something where we've done a lot. So I'm going to just go a little quickly with it. So remember, you should have your topic sentence. You should have quotes. You should have analysis, your explanation of quote, and you should have a concluding statement. Sometimes your analysis and your explanation can be the same. So that's why I made it underline and bold. So I'm not trying to do 700 different colors. So tobacco and drugs can and will kill you. Throughout their lifetime, approximately 455,000 people are diagnosed with lung cancer. Of those people, 160,000 Americans died due to lung cancer in 2016. This means 160,000 people could have lived 20 to 40 more years if they've never picked up a cigarette. And think of all the people exposed to lung cancer because of secondhand smoke. 3,000 people will die of lung cancer even if they have never picked up a cigarette. Not only did smokers put themselves at risk, but anyone who inhaled their smoke is also at risk of getting lung cancer and dying. If someone uses tobacco and drugs, they are selfish. DARE showed me the true risk, and now I know tobacco and drugs are just a danger to the users and people around them and not worth it. So as I'm looking up here, I learned not to use or take drugs and tobacco. I know this is a roadmap to my writing, so my topic sentence should be about drugs and tobacco. Tobacco and drugs can and will kill you. Yep, that matches up. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to make it green because this is my topic sentence. This tells me that the rest of my paragraph will be about how tobacco and drugs can kill you. Throughout their lifetime, approximately 455,000 people are diagnosed with lung cancer. This is a quote from the American Lung Association. Now, it's not a direct quote, but it's still something that I am taking from another source, such as the American Lung Association. That means I need to cite it, I need to make it pink. This means that 160,000 people could have lived 20 to 40 more years if they have never picked up a cigarette. So this is me explaining the quote, so that would make it bold. Think of all the people exposed to lung cancer because of secondhand smoke exposure. 3,000 people die of lung cancer even if they have never picked up a cigarette. Again, not a direct quote, something I put in my own words, but I still got it from the National Cancer Institute, so I'm making it pink. This was my analysis. This was me knowing that people are exposed to secondhand smoke and they die. I have been around secondhand smoke through family members and through being out in the public, so that's something I'm concerned about. So that's why it's underlined, because I thought of it. Not only did smokers put themselves at risk, but anyone who held their smoke is also at risk of getting lung cancer and dying. So I'm going to underline this because this is my ideas, but I'm also explaining the quote, so I'm also going to bold it. I'm supporting the quote with my own ideas, but since it ties directly back to the quote, I'm explaining it, it's also bolded. If someone uses tobacco and drugs, they are selfish. Dare showed me the true risks, and I now know tobacco and drugs are a danger to the users and people around them and not worth it. This is also my analysis. This is also me explaining in my own words why tobacco and drugs will kill you. And then my conclusion statement is right here. It's the end. So I'm going to highlight that yellow. That ties back in and ends my body paragraph on a strong note. Tobacco and drugs are a danger to the users and people around them and not worth it. Now I would move on to body paragraph 2. So if I want to transition, so let's make this green. If you are exposed to drugs, it is important to know who to ask for help. So now I have transitioned to my second statement, to my second body paragraph. And if you look up here, who to ask for help, I bring that up in this sentence too. Therefore, it's a topic sentence. I'm going to stop there because this was just about the first body paragraph in your introduction. So this is what we're working on today. So make sure that you have your hook and your thesis in your intro, and then your body paragraph, your topic sentence, quotes, analysis, explanation of quote, and concluding statement.